So on Monday, Shonen Jump unveiled its Nintendo Direct-like YouTube show called Shonen Jump Press. And like a Nintendo Direct, Shueisha is using it to build hype for upcoming releases. The whole thing was in Japanese, so I didn't really understand any of it, but they did show a few things like the trailer for the upcoming Elusive Samurai anime, which looks great by the way. I stopped reading that series a little while ago, thinking that it would face the dreaded Shonen Jump chopping block, but it's managed to keep its momentum, at least enough to warrant an anime, and what's really good is that they didn't rush to make it. There's enough chapters available that this can be adapted pretty well. They also talked about the second core of Mission Yozakura Family, which I'd be more hyped for if it wasn't on Hulu here in the US. They also showed off some meticulous Shonen Jump bookmarks, which looked okay, but since we're not getting them here, it's whatever. But they closed this new format with news that MHA would be ending in 5 chapters, with a closing statement from Kohei Horikoshi. There are just 5 chapters left until the manga's end. Some might think there's still 5 chapters to go, while others may think just 5 chapters left. But I do my best to make sure both camps enjoy these last 5 chapters with Deku and the others. It was a rocky road, but I was able to draw Deku and friends for nearly 10 years. Thanks to everyone who kept on reading, it was a dream. Thank you so much. Let's meet again and Jump. Now, I've been prepping for the end of this series for about 2 years now, but seeing the video and the translated quote, it hit me harder than I thought. Yes, the war arc wrapped up, but it still felt like there were maybe 10 to 15 chapters left to wind the story down, at least in my mind. To know that we are counting down to 5 has left me feeling a type of way. My Hero is a special series to me, because from 2014 to 2018, I stopped reading manga altogether. Up until that point, I'd been a subscriber to Monthly Shonen Jump magazine since the first issue debuted in 2002, but I was falling out of love with the magazine. One Piece felt like it was never going to end, and it's been an additional 10 years since I first thought that, and it's still going on. Naruto was writing itself into a corner, and I can tell it wasn't going to end well. Bleach was becoming tedious, and my favorite manga at the time, Bakuman by Oba and Obata, had concluded. There was this one new series though that caught my attention, but it quickly took a turn, and by the 4th chapter, I was already done with it. That series was the final straw, so once my annual subscription ended, I saw no need to renew. In case you're wondering what that last series was, it was Barrage by Kohei Horikoshi. During that 4-year period, I mainly focused on gaming as my primary form of entertainment, but on Tuesday, September 25th, my brother called me in the morning and told me he had an extra ticket to see a movie. Some plans he had fallen through, and he asked if I would go with him. I had no plans that day, and hey, it's a free movie, you get to hang out with my brother, sounded like a plan. It didn't even occur to me to ask what movie we were gonna see. Another thing is that my brother never pre-buys tickets, so it must have been something he really wanted to watch. Once we were at the theater, I got a pretty good idea of what kind of movie we were gonna see, as I saw a bunch of people wearing anime shirts. My brother told me we were going to watch My Hero Academia 2 Heroes. Never heard of it. But I couldn't help but look at all the shirts that people were wearing and thinking to myself, I recognize that art style. Not knowing anything about a movie that chronologically takes place between 2 arcs of the 2nd season of a show is a weird entry point, but thankfully, the movie itself is a pretty good entry point explaining the overall premise of the series within the first 15 minutes, and after a pretty damn good action set piece, I was hooked. As soon as the movie ended, I re-downloaded the Shonen Jump app on my iPad and started reading. Before I knew it, I was up to the Shi Hisaikai arc. 115 chapters in 2 days. Around this time though, I couldn't shake the fact that I felt like I knew this art style, I'd seen it somewhere before. So I started to look into it, and I found that it was written by Kohei Horikoshi, the guy who wrote Barrage, the guy who single-handedly drove me away from manga 4 years prior. And he was bringing me back. I started to look into Horikoshi, and his story was something that resonated with me. My Hero was his last shot. If this series didn't work, he was going to stop working on manga completely. And he put his soul into My Hero, and you can tell that from the very first chapter. The artwork is exceptional, and it's only improved as the story is continued. Even to this point, the series still looks phenomenal. My biggest problem with the series is that Horikoshi continually tried to put his all into the series. But after the Shi Hisaikai arc and the school festival arc began, I noticed that fans were beginning to turn on the series. They weren't resonating with it anymore, and the phrase, My Hero Academia is mid, began to take hold. The fan base had gotten toxic like all fan bases tend to do. Truth be told, I hadn't thought the manga had fallen off. The school festival arc has one of my favorite villains in the entire series. But you could see, Horikoshi was taking this all in, and soon he started to develop chronic health issues, which started causing delays in the manga. Horikoshi never stopped giving his all to this series, and considering how detrimental the lifestyle of a mangaka already is, the fact that he kept getting sick was starting to worry me. People forget, because we demand 24/7 entertainment, that mangaka are people, and people aren't really meant to have the kind of work schedule that mangaka subject themselves to. Weekly deadlines are already grueling, but we expect the mangaka to meet these deadlines and not have the quality of the art or the writing fall off without the threat of backlash from fans. What we are asking for is the impossible. Yet Horikoshi kept delivering fantastic panel after panel. Have you ever thought to compare the American comic book industry to the Japanese? American comic books like Spider-Man, X-Men, and Batman are monthly books, and usually the story and art are separated, one writer, one artist. Then you have another person who will ink and another person who will letter the dialogue. While a mangaka may have some assistance, the bulk of the art and lettering are handled by them. Not to mention they also have to write and plot, and they have to do it in 7 days, non-stop, for the entirety of the series. Another thing to keep in mind is that American comic book teams usually only carry a series for 2 to 3 years before another team is brought in to refresh the series altogether. Horikoshi has been telling My Hero Academia for 10 years. Fans, and I say that with quotation marks, really gave Horikoshi a lot of shit. I think My Hero Academia is mid is the most disgusting statement I've ever heard, because I don't ever believe the series had a major drop-off point. Naruto and BLEACH are still pretty highly regarded, but in my opinion, I know exactly where those two series really started to waver. For BLEACH, it was right after Wakamundo, and for Naruto, it was almost immediately after Sasuke killed Danzo, the acting Hokage, and Naruto still wants to save him. I call complete bullshit on that. Overall, in my opinion, My Hero Academia only had minor issues. Sometimes plots dragged on a bit too long, but for the most part, MHA arcs were short. By the time Horikoshi entered the final arc, breaks between the chapters were happening more and more frequently, and I started to think to myself, if this keeps going like this, he's either going to die or do some long-term damage to himself. As much as I think Naruto fell off, I never thought it was outright bad, but I felt like Kishimoto wrote himself into a corner, and you can see that overall, it put a toll on him. Kishimoto can't draw full time anymore. The arthritis he developed over the 15 years the series ran took that away from us. Horikoshi's health issues over the last few years truly make me scared for his well-being. Even though I find myself conflicted that the series is ending in 5 chapters, I'm also happy that Horikoshi will be able to take an extended break after its completion. My Hero's 10-year run feels unprecedented, especially in comparison to its contemporaries like Haikyuu, Demon Slayer, Promised Neverland, and Dr. Stone. Those series all ran between 4 and 8 years. With the exception of One Piece, My Hero is Shonen Jump's longest active running series. It's starting to feel like this is the last time we will have a manga and Shonen Jump achieve a milestone like this, as the landscape of manga has changed so much over the last couple of years, especially when it comes to things like scheduling and the delivery method. Shueisha's biggest new hits, like Kaiju No. 8 and Spy Family, come from Jump Plus, an online-only delivery system, and they release on an alternative schedule, schedules that allow the artists to incorporate extended breaks into their workflow. The landscape has shifted so much, I really want to take the time to appreciate what Horikoshi was able to build with My Hero Academia. There are 5 chapters left, so why does it feel like the start of a new arc? I can't help but draw a parallel to the end of Z. When Dragon Ball was ending, the final chapters show the Z fighters entering another tournament. We get introduced to 3 new characters, Bra, Pan, and Oob. We also see teenage versions of Trunks and Goten. At first glance, it looks like we're seeing the next generation of fighters, the ones who will inherit Goku's will to get stronger, and by extension, the next generation of Earth's defenders. But that's not what happens. Instead, Toriyama ends the series with Goku taking Oob away to train. And that's it. It felt like the beginning of the arc, but instead it leaves us with an open ending. My Hero's first epilogue chapter shows us the graduation of the 3rd years, preparation for the new incoming 1st years, and lays out what is expected of Class 1A now that they are officially 2nd years. We also see a mysterious youth roaming the broken streets the same way Tenko Shimura did before All For One found him. I have a feeling I know how the series will end, and I don't hate it, if I'm right that is. There are still some unknowns, like the status of Deku's abilities going forwards, Dabi's fate, and the status of the heroes whose quirks were stolen on the battlefield by All For One. Questions I hope that all get answered. August 5th is when the series will officially end, and I'm not sure I'm ready for it to, but I want to say thank you to Kohei Horikoshi for bringing me back to manga. There's nothing left to do now but count down to 5 and prepare to say goodbye to My Hero Academia. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I know I said that my Kaiju No. 8 video was going to be next, but the more I thought about the end of My Hero Academia, the more I realized I needed to talk about it. I'm such a huge fan of this series that it felt wrong for me to not say my piece about how I felt about it over the last 8 years of reading. The Kaiju number 8 video is next, I swear, but until then, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. It will help the channel grow and help others find the content. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe for more content like this, and don't forget to click on the bell to be notified whenever a new video drops. Also, please leave a comment so we can have a discussion about today's topic. And lastly, don't forget to follow me on all my socials. The links are in the description. Until next time, guys, go beyond, plus ultra.